Small forwards are the workhorses. They need to do everything for their team. Rebounding, assisting, and scoring. This position has been loaded with talent throughout NBA history. And in this video, we're showing you the top 10 small forwards of all time. You're going to see players spanning generations. So stay to the end and see who we crown the king of them all. Number 10, Paul George. Starting off with the smoothest superstar on this list. A 6-time All-NBA team member, 4-time All-Defensive team member, 7-time All-Star, and a Most Improved Player in the 2012-2013 season. George is easily one of the best two-way players in the league today. In the 2018-19 season, George solidified himself among the NBA's elite when he recorded a top 3 finish in the MVP voting. That season, PG-13 averaged 28 points, 8.2 rebounds, and a league-leading 2.2 steals per game. Despite missing many games in 2014 due to a terrible leg injury, PG-13 was able to craft a borderline Hall of Fame resume in just 12 seasons. And besides that, he has a lot of time left in his career. If Paul George keeps up his excellent play, he may reach the top 5 on this list. Number 9, Dominique Wilkins. Perhaps you know him as one of the best dunkers in the history of the NBA, but Nick was more than just a dunker. He used to be a walking bucket and a human highlight reel. Yet he doesn't receive enough credit nowadays because of his lack of playoff success. Still, we're talking about a player who left the league for a few years to play internationally and returned as dominant as ever. Wilkins averaged more than 25 points per game for 10 consecutive seasons and won the scoring title in 1986. The crazy thing was after he snapped his Achilles in 1992, he rehabbed, he returned, and he was still dunking on dudes. He never won an MVP or championship. He was a 4-time All-Star and one of the most athletic players to ever grace an NBA court. Despite playing in an era where the three-point shot was less common, Wilkins is 14th on the all-time scoring list with 26,668 points. Number 8, James Worthy. You would have assumed that James Worthy, who is 6 foot 9 inches tall, would certainly be a power forward. Yet he's not. For 12 years, he was a small forward who played for the Los Angeles Lakers Showtime team with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. He was dangerous when close to the hoop, thanks to his smooth post moves, good mid-range shot, and iconic finger roll. Aside from that, he was a beast during the playoffs. In his 143 total playoff games, James Worthy averaged 21.1 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 3.2 assists. The most significant aspect of his game was his clutchness. He didn't get the nickname Big Game James for no reason. He always delivered in the clutch. Consider the 1988 playoffs, where he was named the 1988 NBA Finals MVP and recorded a 36-point triple-double game to help the Lakers defeat the Detroit Pistons in 7 games. Number 7, Scottie Pippen. He had an outstanding successful career. Still, many NBA fans disregard Pippen as one of the all-time greats. Maybe that's what really happens when you spend most of your career playing alongside a guy named Michael Jordan. However, Pippen was more than just a sidekick to Michael Jordan. He was a 7-time NBA All-Star and was the NBA All-Star Game MVP in 1994. He was also a 10-time All-Defensive selection, arguably the best perimeter defender of all time, a Hall of Famer, and a 6-time NBA champion. Number 6, John Havlichek. When true NBA fans hear the name John Havlichek, also known as Hondo, the first thing that probably comes to their mind is something about being an outstanding swingman or an exceptional defender. Havlichek was the type of opponent that would always try to backdoor, cut you, slip into the post, set screens for players, and run down the floor. The sometimes underappreciated Celtic was all of that and more. He's a 6'5" swingman who was considered by many to be the best all-around athlete in the NBA during the early 70s. He was a superb shooter, passer, rebounder, ball handler, and one of the greatest clutch players ever at both ends of the floor in league history. In addition, Havlicek is the Celtics' all-time leading scorer, and he was an 11-time All-NBA selections, 13-time All-Star, 5 All-Defensive First-Team selections, a 1-time Finals MVP, and an 8-time NBA champion. Number 5, Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor was a basketball player who had no limitations in his game. Despite being undersized for a forward at 6 foot 5 inches tall, Baylor excelled using a mix of his strength, vertical, and excellent body control. For 14 years, he only played for the Lakers. Elgin was a high-flying superstar with moves that no one had seen before. He was a performer and a scoring machine. He was so ahead of his time. There are even highlights of Baylor executing the Eurostep in the 60s. He's called to be LeBron before LeBron, and Michael before Michael. Baylor had numerous impressive accomplishments during his career, the most notable of which was Game 5 of the Finals against the Celtics. He recorded 61 points and 22 rebounds in the Boston Garden against their rivals. It's second to Michael Jordan's 63 points, and Baylor did that without shooting any threes. What's even crazier is Baylor accomplished it in the 1961-1962 season when he was still performing his duties in the Army. Other enlisted men would go home or party during the weekends, but Elgin was different. Elgin Baylor would use his weekends to play in the NBA and drop 38 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 assists on a regular basis, without proper training. For 14 years, he averaged 27.4 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. Elgin appeared 8 times in the NBA Finals, but unfortunately, he never won an NBA title. However, in 1971-1972, the season where he only played 9 games, the Lakers won a championship, and Baylor was still given a ring for being a part of that Lakers team, despite retiring early due to injuries. Number 4, Julius Erving. Most fans know that the creator of the free throw line dunk was Michael Jordan. Well, he's not. Dr. J did the free throw line dunk to win the first ever slam dunk contest in 1976, becoming the first person to do so in a slam dunk contest. Dr. J was more than just a dunker. He was an icon, a superstar, and an all-time great who always slips through the cracks. He was so smooth. Remember that baseline scoop he did? It was so amazing even Magic Johnson admitted that he didn't know whether to pass the ball inbounds or ask Dr. J to do it again. That move is just unreal. The athleticism, flair, and creativity Julius provided were revolutionary for the time and played a significant role in inspiring future generations. And for 11 seasons, he blessed all of us by witnessing him play for the 76ers, averaging 24.2 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game. In addition, he was an 11-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA first-team selection, 1-time NBA MVP, an NBA champion, and a Hall of Famer. Number 3, Kevin Durant. KD is a 7-foot giant with the skills and athleticism of a guard. KD is a sniper. Even the late Kobe Bryant once explained in an interview that KD was the hardest player to guard, and he never figured out a way to stop Durant. Aside from that, KD is an excellent defender. He can move with his feet quickly, jump high to block shots, and contest a shot well due to his long wingspan. Throughout his 15-year career, KD has averaged 27.2 points per game, and only LeBron James's 27.3 points per game have averaged more. It's no question KD has been lighting up the league since 2008. In the past 14 years, he became a Rookie of the Year awardee, 12-time NBA All-Star, 4-time scoring champion, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 1-time regular season MVP, 2-time Finals MVP, and 2-time NBA champion. Durant won those titles with Golden State, the franchise he was with, before joining his current team, the Brooklyn Nets. Number 2, Larry Bird. Larry Bird is unquestionably one of the best basketball players of all time. He was a 3-time MVP, 3-time NBA champion, and 12-time All-Star, and he appears to be on everyone's list of the top 10 players of all time. During his 13-year career, Larry Bird averaged 24.3 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. He was a ferocious competitor who didn't think twice about calling people out and destroying them on the court to demonstrate his dominance. He was driven and serious about winning. Larry was highly confident in his abilities and could predict how things would turn out before they happened. Larry not only predicted that he would win games, but he also dared to predict how many points he would score before a game. But probably the most legendary story about Larry Bird is when he decided to use his left hand for an entire game against the Blazers. Care to know the reason why? Larry Bird said, "I'm saving my right hand for the Lakers." Bird scored 10 of 21 field goals against Portland with his left hand and finished the game with 47 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists. He had a triple-double performance using only his offhand to help the Celtics win the game 120-119 in overtime. 2 nights later, Bird finished with 22 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists, and a 105-99 win over the Lakers in LA. What a boss! Number 1. LeBron James. Capping up this list is the king himself, LeBron James. He is perhaps the most highly anticipated prospect ever coming out of high school, and he has more than lived up to that hype. The king has 4 MVP awards, 4 rings, and 4 finals MVP. He currently ranks second all-time in points scored, but is on track to be number 1 by the end of this 2022-2023 season. At age 37, James is still one of the best all-around players in the league, combining outstanding offensive skills with superb rebounding, passing, and defense at the highest level. Not only is LeBron James the greatest small forward of all time, but many people also think of him as the greatest basketball player of all time. Even he thinks of himself as the GOAT. James arrived at that conclusion after he led the Cavaliers to 3 straight victories, including 2 on the road to win the finals, despite falling behind against the historic 73-9 Golden State Warriors team by a 3-1 deficit. He won the unanimous MVP award for the finals, but more significantly, he fulfilled his promise to the Cleveland Cavaliers to bring them a championship. At that point, LeBron called himself the best ever. That moment, I was like, I am the greatest basketball player people have ever seen in all the facets. Like, I can play 1 to 5, I can guard 1 to 5, just literally like doing something that's never been done in the history of the sport. Teams that go down 3-1 were like 0 for 32 in finals history. There was nobody ever coming out of there, and nobody gave us a chance. I just felt like ain't nobody better than me at this. What LeBron and the Cavs did was indeed legendary. So the question shouldn't be whether LeBron James is the greatest small forward of all time, but rather, is he the greatest basketball player in the history of the NBA?